Hey, 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 Dr.Minesha here, affectionately known as Dr. M. Welcome officially to the Peace Driven Leader Lounge, you all. I am always excited to be able to share this time and space with you in our sacred place where leaders get an opportunity to become. And they can do it right where they are, the space where they're in, whether they're grieving, whether they're getting married, whether they're going through a transition, having a baby, whatever life brings on, that gets to be okay. And so I'm super excited that our paths crossed when it did. And I'm looking forward to having this amazing conversation with this beautiful woman. Kieran,
Hi.
did I say that right?
Yes, you
Just
did.
crossing my fingers. Karen, awesome. We get a chance, you all, to talk with some of the most incredible leaders across the planet. And that just excites me so much. So I'm going to jump into this conversation. Before I do, I have to make a disclaimer for those who are listening to me for the very first time. Welcome. I will warn you that we have absolutely no script, that when we have these podcasts, it's totally just us having a candid conversation that matters. And so it gives the space for the soul to awaken by whatever that needs to be said in the present moment. And there's no better way to do that than just being transparent and being flexible, you know? And so we just see where the conversation leads, and it's always different, and it keeps everything exciting that way. So just continue to ride this wave with us as we start the conversation. I want to open up with just you sharing with us about your your journey, the things you've been able to accomplish, anything you feel led to share, just to give us some context around just life for you as a leader. And then we'll jump into some conversation.
Oh, sounds good. Thank you so much for having me, first off. I'm Kieran. I'm the owner of On the Dot Management. I am an OBM to authors and coaches in the publishing space. And I come with 20 years of entertainment and media experience. My first job was at good old MTV, working in Times Square,
Oh,
which
God.
as a TRL girl, I was like my dream come true. And then,
That's
at
impressive.
35, I was named COO at a independent production and distribution company. That company worked on comedy
Wow.
specials and docu-series such as The Toys That Made Us, the Ali Wong special, um,
Ah,
so many things. I could not even remember them all or name them all, but it was quite the experience.
I
And
bet.
as of 2021, I started my consulting journey, and opened my company up in 2022. And so that's been really awesome because, if you've ever gone from employee to consultant, all of a sudden your opinions start to shift, right? Instead of just kind of doing what you're told, they go to like going, oh, well, that's what the consultant recommended. We should definitely do that. That's a nice switch.
Right.
It's been really nice.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about that. And it just, just corporate culture. Been hearing a lot of people's experiences about that. And I would love to kind of unpack that. Of as a leader, why do you believe that there's this feeling of not being seen and not being heard, or ideas have to be attached to a title in order for it to get validated or implemented? Why do you think that is from a
You
cultural
know,
standpoint?
I'm not really sure, and I think it definitely varies company to company and culture to culture, right? I have been fortunate to work at smaller companies. I've never worked at like a huge, huge company. Um, MTV aside, I was like a little side company that we contracted with. Um, and so I've been in the rooms where, my opinion has been considered, but it's been considered and then,
Mm,
okay, well, we're going to do it the other way anyway. So it's hard,
right,
right? You have
right.
to like be like,
Yeah,
okay. But I'm of the
yeah,
mind, and in a culture that I was cultivating, like I want to, go with the best idea. So if the best idea comes from
yeah.
the unpaid intern and the SVP's
Mm.
opinion doesn't make any sense, I'm going to go with the intern's idea. But that's how the kind of, like, leadership I want, right? Best idea wins, not who said it. Um, so I think that's definitely
Mm.
culture. I see that we're starting to switch there, and again, depends on where you're
Mhm.
working, but that's kind of my
Mhm.
goal.
Yeah, they call it, we interviewed someone that talked about the corporate game, and she was saying, the politics that can go around, that can happen into that environment, and how you learn to either play it, like you're playing it regardless. You're either on the bench or you learn to play it. And it's a lot of mindset work. I
Yeah.
can imagine going day to day into a company where I felt like 90% of the suggestions that I made or the thoughts that I contribute weren't truly considered.
Yeah.
And especially if I have to be the one to execute an idea that I know is not fruitful, and it's not doesn't have the
Mhm.
company's best you know, interests at heart, that can be very painful to have to implement. So
Yeah.
a lot of mindset stuff, I can imagine for sure. And
Yeah.
what was the straw that broke the camel's back for you when it came to your turning point? It's, you worked in corporate, for many years and then you had
Yeah.
your shift. So what was that?
For me, it was really just about, like, realizing that I had learned what I needed to learn at that place, gotten the lessons, and it was time to move
Mm.
on. I knew it would
Oh,
come one
so
day.
good.
Um, the writing was on the wall. But, I was
Mhm.
willing to be there and learn and digest and take advantage of the opportunities I was getting. Um, to be named
Mhm.
COO at 35 is like a really good opportunity. You'd be an idiot to
Oh,
not
heck
take that.
yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
but you can only grow so far in so many places, and so it was just time. And
Yeah.
then, I was looking for other full-time work. I made this, like, very long list of all the things I wanted in the next job, but at the top of that was, like, making sure I was aligned value-wise with who I was working with and for, because, like you said, like, there's nothing that kills your soul or burns you out faster, I think, than doing work you don't believe in, or doing work and you're like, "I know this isn't gonna
Mm.
work because if we just listen to what I said," and then not it's like
Mhm.
that same 10 hours or 5 hours, whatever you are spending, like, if it lights you up, if you're excited about it and it's something you really deeply care about, it doesn't feel like work the same way. It
Oh my
feeds your
gosh,
soul, it
yes.
doesn't
Yeah,
suck
for
your
sure.
soul.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And you said something too that really resonated, looking at your place of employment and really deciding in the onset, what am I getting? Because I mean, we're already a servant leader. We already just over deliver when it comes to how we show up for others. We don't have a problem there. People that follow, this podcast, you're here because you are a leader's leader. And people depend on you because you are reliable and you are high value to any company that you're a part of. And so then the question then becomes, what is in it for you? And really allowing yourself to make sure that the environment that you place yourself in is conducive for your gift, your vision, your mission. And another thing you said that was really key is that you realized that the company you were working for, the mission initially was completely aligned and was fulfilling, and you were able to see all the gifts that were cultivated during that season of your life. And it reminded me of a quote or a statement that was made. It was so profound about you know employment being used as that practice ground. Before you get deployed. So it's employment and then it's deployment into your ultimate work, right? So I
I
love
like
that
that.
you said it that way. Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And then you're able to take a lot of those qualities and those skills and stuff and amplify it. Even when you say CEO at 35, that's pretty impressive. It makes sense that you are doing OBM work. Um, and that's business manager, you all, for those of you all in corporate are like, what is that?
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, managing the systems and the business, of authors and coaches. So what does that look like when it comes to an author? being able to do that background? 'Cause I can understand as a coach, but how does that look as a person who has wrote a book and you're managing the leads or the campaign? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so for the people I work with, they are 6 and 7-figure authors, and they've got a lot of books. It's very impressive. We're not talking I wrote a book 1 book and, we're talking so there's so many things to do. There's translations for each of those books. We get most of them translated
Um,
into 3 to 4 different languages. Um, each of those they're
um,
independent, right? So there's no publishing house. We are the publishing house. So that's
wow.
coordinating with the designers and really helping that author out. Like the author needs to write, right? Like if they're
Yeah,
not
the author
if
needs
not
to
and that's
write.
and
That's
that's
an
their
idea.
zone of genius. Um, and a lot of times you don't realize when you're first getting started, and I've heard this from authors, is like you didn't realize you're also the entrepreneur. You think, "Oh, I'm an author." But authors, especially independent, are entrepreneurs. They have a whole business to run. Um, so I help analyze some of the numbers and the data that comes in so that we can decide, how we're going to distribute a particular book. If we're, you know, there's a constant fight over whether you put your book in Kindle Unlimited solely. It's exclusive if you do that, or if you publish it wide and put it out, on all the other platforms that where you could buy like an ebook or a paperback. Um, so there's like those kind of questions that we're dealing with on a title per title basis. But it's also the launch management when you're also writing that many books. The authors I work for are putting out a couple per year. So it's like doing basic project management, but like ensuring that all those little details that get a book out the door are done. Um, and working with their
Yeah.
assistants as well to make sure, we have to do our own formatting. We're sending out to what they call ARC readers, or for those that don't know, that's advanced reader copies. Um, Making sure all that timing works too, and giving ourselves enough of a marketing kind of ramp so that the book can be
Mhm.
successful.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
impressive. So you are like the go-to person for their team
yeah,
that is helping to project manage the campaign.
yeah, and like really starting to like one of the biggest things was, like, the management of all those pieces was really hard for my first author, and so, like, then I started stepping in and, like, talking to the assistant more often and, like, helping them prioritize and things like that, so, like, all those conversations, the people management aspect of it as well, is one less thing that the author has to worry about, but the things still get done.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I was some crazy statistic that I was reading the other day, and it was talking about how the average author only sells, I want to say 200 books. It was like, wow, the number. I'm going to
Yeah,
just say 1,000 for the sake of the conversation, but that still was
thousands a
like,
lot.
wow. And that, yeah, yeah, mostly it's 200. And the idea was that when we write books, we don't really write with the strategy in mind. And so, um, it it just becomes like this launch and then it just fizzles. And so, I really love the work that you do because what that does now, it equips the visionary to have that momentum. Because if they're in their zone of genius, that's the absolute best place that they could be. And you
Absolutely.
strip away those what I call glorified distractors that's necessary for a business, but it sucks not only their energy, but their creativity, you know,
Right.
to write.
Right, because, like,
Yeah. So that's
if my
awesome.
strength is writing, my strength is not accounting. Those are 2 very different, like, left brain, right brain things, and, like, for you to have to switch to do those 2 things is, like, hard. So, um, yeah, no,
So you do that as well? Or you
I don't do
manage
the
their
accounting
accountant?
necessary. No, no. They have bookkeepers,
I
but
would
then
say,
but I
wow.
am working with the bookkeeper to, look at quarterly and year-end things to say, "Okay, like, how are we doing? Or do we need to push more?
Yeah,
Um,
right.
what platform seems to be underperforming?" just double checking, have we actually gotten paid from this platform? There, and I did that a lot of the other media companies when we were talking about streaming movies or TV shows or ebooks. Like it, these platforms have so many things. Sometimes they do lag in when they're supposed to pay you. So sometimes you are chasing payments, but you have to
Oh.
like stay on
Oh.
top of it and make sure that you're you know getting the money
What do you
that you deserve.
recommend for me? It's so interesting you said that because I was just telling my team, like, you know what? I had a best-selling Amazon book and I don't even remember what that was set up with. I have to go and follow up with that.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, do I call Amazon? Because they didn't send me any messages. But um, I had several people, that have supported that book, and the book is still up there. So I was like, okay, this is odd, because I hired a management company who set it up and all that. So um, that happened many years ago, and I look at just, man, it was a lot of detailed things that had to be done, and that's why I'm a huge advocate of professionals. So I absolutely know firsthand the value of the work that you bring, to a creative. Because even in something like that, when it comes to the money, like, I just did not have the desire to still get on the phone and figure out who do I talk to see where that's,
Oh no, no.
it is. It does
Yeah.
feel energy sucking. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome that you do
Yeah,
that.
it's that's there's nothing more painful than that, and usually when you're dealing with a large company like Amazon, it's like emailing them until they respond to you and being the squeaky wheel that they finally are like, "Fine, I'll just shut this person up,"
Yeah,
you know?
exactly, exactly. Yeah, 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 they just had me think about that. I do need to follow up on that. Could have, loads of money sitting there waiting on me. But this
Oh
is
my
a really
god,
good point,
you need it.
and
Call it
we'll
in.
yeah, and this is a really good point for you all who are listening. This is lean in. We have these lean in moments. This is definitely one of those. You really don't realize how much you lose by not hiring a professional until after the fact. Because when you think about the impact of having someone else's eyes on on the metrics, I mean, that's why companies do it and they're so successful, is
Mhm.
that what you measure, right? Like, you cannot manage what you cannot measure. And that touch point that you're doing and making sure these different pieces are in play, that is a direct relationship to the business owner's ability to profit.
Yeah.
So much is lost in the cracks because of
Yeah.
improper stewardship. Ask me
Right.
how I know. So I've really come to a place where I will not lead my life anymore without professional help. It is not wise. So if you're
Yeah.
listening and you do not and you're trying to write a book by yourself and you're trying to figure it out and you're trying to go on Amazon and trying to figure out whether you should self-publish or be an independent, stop. Stop piecemealing it. Stop trying to figure it out all by yourself. You don't have to. You could, but you don't get a prize for doing the most crap. You don't get a prize, right? But you do get
No.
better sleep and you
Yeah,
get
and I think
peace. I,
when
you
you're
know,
when you're starting out, it's really hard to justify hiring the expert when you're still like, I'm barely making enough money for me, or, like, we're not profitable. How do I hire somebody else? Like, right? Then we'll be in the red. Um, but depending on who you're hiring, if they free you up to do revenue generating things, then eventually it will work out that they have freed you up to find that. Or, it's very common for business managers such as myself, OBMs, to come in and just do a simple system audit. I was on doing research the other day and I went on an author's website and they had a thing you could add to cart and you could buy the book right there. And then I was like, okay, I was just curious to see what platform they were using because that's, what I was doing. And didn't work. So here I was, a person and a customer that was ready to buy something and I couldn't check out. That's a money leak. You're losing money. You may
um,
not have like lost actual money, but you lost a
yeah.
sale, right? So and that can
That's
happen
right.
for so many businesses, little things like that, or, there's a contact page and I was gonna reach out to somebody, but their contact page link was dead. So it's like little things like that, so
Yeah,
you constantly
because
have
what
to
they don't tell
have
you
someone
that you
checking
have
on
these
it.
pixels. Yeah, you have to have these is so much, these
Yeah.
updates,
I mean, they're
that's
changing things
happening,
so
and
fast
this is
now.
yeah, for sure. You will hear me say that to the cows come home when it comes to professional help. You need a protein. It is
Mhm.
what it is. You need a protein. And if you have not downloaded the iLead We Rise app, definitely do that. We have experts like Karen that are inside of the app that can support you in the and right when you need it, right? Where you are in your life, in your business, as a corporate professional interested in making another stream of income, wherever you are, whatever you feel like you're needing in those 8 domains of leadership, you can see it very clearly. You know exactly what steps you need to take, and you get to focus on you. Because so often we're focusing on the needs of the company and the needs of the children and the needs of the spouse that we lose sight of what outcomes we are doing when it comes to our self-care and our health and our profitability and the legacy. The book is legacy. That is your a way to really make your fingerprint in the world. And you'll find yourself once you get this structure and this order and this organization in place that now you get like this expansive creativity because the mundane task literally sucks the creativity out of you.
Oh, it
And
really
I
does.
believe that's really where you know what I mean? That's really where the leverage is really happening, and you
Yeah.
experience these quantum leaps. Yeah, for sure. I can
Yeah.
speak personally from that as having a team now. Yeah, for sure. So,
Mhm.
what is the one thing you wanna leave with the people on today? What is something that, they're listening, some of them are entrepreneurs, some of them are corporate professionals. If they had one thing that they can take with them to make them a better leader than they are today, what would that be for you?
Well, I think it's kind of along what we were just saying, but it's also like knowing what your strengths are and then where your weaknesses are. It's
Mm,
okay to admit that you're not strong there. We cannot know everything about everything. It's okay. But you know what? There's someone out there that does. And there's someone out there, the thing that you
mm,
hate so much doing in your business, someone out there loves doing it. And then it's going to suck your time and
mm,
suck you dry, but it's going to light them up. And so as soon as you can like whenever I first start talking to a client, the first thing I say is like, "What do you hate doing the most?" So let's start there. That's the first thing that
mm,
you're going to wanna offboard
mm.
the second you can afford
Really?
to, right? So, what do you hate doing the most, and what do you like, "I don't like do what am I not good at?" Right, like, those are the first 2 questions and the
Right.
first 2 answers and the first 2 hires you should make, right? If you're really creative, then, yeah, you should probably hire
Mhm.
somebody who's very, like, data driven, a bookkeeper, an accountant, somebody like that. But
Mhm.
if you're I see a lot of people have independent bookkeeping businesses now, so if that's you, then you probably need to hire a creative person to help you with your social media, right? Like, we just have to assess like, be honest with ourselves,
Yeah.
and that's the first step.
Yeah. Yeah, and leverage.
Yeah, and
Yeah, for
together,
sure.
you and your
Right.
hires make a really strong team that can grow your company and, propel it far better than you ever could have on your own. You don't get a prize for doing it all
Oh
on
my
your own.
gosh, yes. Nope. Nope, not at all. That's right. I love it. Well, you heard it here at the Peace Driven Leader Lounge. Listen, it's not about how much you carry. Remember this. It is about how well you carry it. And the goal is to connect with community. That is going to be your power position this year is to be strategic about the people that you come in communion with. And like Karen said, humble yourself and identify what it is that you're really needing and seek help and don't judge yourself for doing it, right? We all have to seek help. And I feel like God did that so that, we depend on one another. And that word depend probably ruffled someone's feathers. I'm not depending on anyone. I've been, lean in there.
I
Lean in
know.
there because
I'm
that
independent,
is
I
what
hate it.
sabotages us.
Yeah,
Yeah, that sabotages us. We have to break free and we have to allow ourselves to trust and we have to allow ourselves to receive. And I love what you said is that when we do that, we're now giving the other person who's good at that a opportunity to activate their gift. So it's never really
yeah,
about us, right? If we keep trying to do it ourselves, we're robbing them from the opportunity to do what God created them to do. And so who are we to do that? So with
yeah,
that
I like
being
looking at it
said, I
that
want to
way.
thank you again for tuning in with us at the Peace Driven Leader Lounge. Awesome. And I just want to leave this with you as something to remember that peace driven leadership is not something you'll find. It is something you create. And this now, today, is your moment to create it. Until the next episode, bye bye for now.